Hi, friends. Welcome to the 38th episode of Matka Chai. And we have a very special guest today, Mahita Nagraj. Welcome,
Hi,
Mahita.
Priti.
Welcome to the Final Side show. It was so nice of you to accept this in a very short notice. But I was trying to figure out who can we have exactly 2 years after the COVID began. Exactly two
Thank
years
you.
after we were all imprisoned by this beautiful COVID and things changed in our lives. And then I thought, yes, there's a person while everybody was sitting at home doing a lot of work to make sure a lot of people were helped during this time. That's when I said I have to reach out to you and see how we can get you on the show. Thank you for coming. While we have people coming in, uh, this is a chat show where we would like to talk to people who have been part of Bangalore, part of the whole industry of helping each other. And you have done a commendable job, which I'm sure that while we talk, we will explore and know more. So there is no agenda in this conversation. What we want to know is who you are, where you came from, what you did, and how do you end up doing what you did. So
Thank you.
let's start from the way beginning of your school, college. Tell us a little about it.
Oh, I am a Bangalore girl through and through. I was born in Bangalore. I've lived here all of my life, and I think except for a brief period of maybe 7 years or 8 years when I lived and worked in Chennai, I've been in Bangalore even for the greatest part of my career. I went to school in Bishop Cottons and I went to college in Mount Carmel College. And I was very fortunate to have a family that sort of helped me do as much as I wanted to in terms of extracurricular activities and hobbies and things like that without being really disruptive or and their only criterion was that I don't drop academically. So as long as I school is your first priority, school has to be your focus, and as long as you can prove that to us in your report card, then go ahead and spend the rest of the year the way you want to. So you know i had I had access to music classes. I was a trained Bharatnatyam dancer. I was a trained Odissi dancer. I was a trained Carnatic classic musician. I learned recently how to also play the flute. But yeah, I mean, my interests are very, very varied, I think, because of the kind of childhood that I had. I grew up watching my parents be the best versions of themselves, being a really tightly knit family unit, being, fighting with each other but loving each other, putting family above everything else, and just generally making the most of my brother and me. I have an elder brother, and we had two dogs as well, so it was a really madcap household. And climbing trees, going out to Lal Bagh and Kaban Park, and cycling around the neighborhood. I think the same things that every young Bangalorean sort of reminisces about. That's exactly what I grew up with. Idlis and dosas at Darshini's, Abiruchi, the rare Casapicola treat, walking everywhere. Richmond Road was a two-way, Residency Road was a two-way. So yeah, old Bangalorean.
Yeah, and that pottery shop next to Casa Piccola, you know,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and those lovely seats and nice lovebirds sitting all over the place.
And they were the first ones to make those witty India T-shirts, right? The
Yeah, yeah,
and the fridge magnets and everything that then became such a rage. Yeah. So old Bangalorean.
wonderful. Where did you stay in Bangalore, or where do you
I
stay?
have Actually, I've been in Shantinagar all my life. So my parents moved into their apartment when I must have been maybe 5 months old. My mom still lives there to date,
Oh,
and
no.
I live about a kilometer away from her in Langford town. So, yeah, central
Super,
Bangalore.
super, super. So Mount Carmel College, I think at probably the time that you were there in the peak, it was one of the topmost colleges where, Sister G.
Yes.
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 So I used to take students for trekking from there. So
Oh.
I was in charge of a trekking group called Spark, and I was deputed to that college. And imagine another teenager being deputed to a Mount Carmel college.
Oh, yes. And
I
I
was,
remember Spark. You guys used to do like Agumbe monsoon treks and things
yes,
like that.
Agumbe,
Yes.
Kudremukh,
Yeah.
Korchadri, a lot of these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was part of that, and I have tons of friends from Mounts thanks to those activities. Lots of friends who still there, whose children have probably studied with my son. So connect back kind of a thing. Lovely college, and
Fantastic.
also what I know about that college is there's a lot of encouragement on a lot of extracurricular activities,
Yes.
a lot of leadership qualities.
Yes, that's true. They
Do
have a
you?
lot of clubs that cater to, I think, pretty much every interest that anybody could have. And they had people who were part of every single club, every single activity. So, yes,
So you are sort of a leader in your own way. We will discover how later. But do
thank you.
you also feel that the schooling and college helped you to do what you're doing now? Not
I would
academic.
like, not academically.
Yeah.
So, very strangely, I was one of those people that I was a nerd through and through in school and college, right? I was one of those people who went to college for the academics. Like the thing that got me out of bed every morning to go was the content of my classes, because I really, really enjoyed the course that I was doing. I did communicative English, mass communication, and I loved, I loved what I was doing. The course was fabulous. My instructors were excellent. I'm still in touch with a couple of my college professors, thankfully. But for me, I think the best part about college was actually my course. So, and of course, I made a ton of really good friends there. But I was sort of always the misfit. I didn't really fit into any friend group. I was kind of like the wanderer. But yes, I think being in the environment that Bishop Cotton's and Mount Carmel's provided, right, uh, was excellent. It gave me the ability to learn from a lot of people, not just your in no, your teachers and professors and things, but also your peers, and it gives you a kind of confidence, I think, that sort of sets you up for success in a lot of other areas in your life. So yeah.
Yeah. I think the base was pretty strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is very important. And rightfully, like you said, your family was very supportive. I think that makes so much of a difference. Especially girls going out, doing things, and the encouragement adds more
So I,
confidence.
my family is we're very equal. We never grew up in an environment, and this is true for many generations. I think not just my mom and dad, but more so in the case of my mom and dad. It was never a case of, there is a female role, there is a male role. No, there wasn't. My mom ran multiple businesses. She used to head a bank. She founded a women's cooperative bank. She's a financial consultant, and she used to. Her hobby was to buy sick units, convert them into profit making units, and sell them. Right.
Oh,
So while she was busy working the entire day and the morning, my father was a lawyer, and his bulk of his work happened after 6 p.m. because that's when lawyers meet clients. So, he would be the one getting us ready for class, or school in the morning. He would be there when, as a very young kid, I came back home for lunch. He came to my PTAs a lot more, I think, than my mom did.
wow.
Both of them would come for all of my school events, all the sports days and the prize days and everything. But it was a very equal partnership that they had. And my mom herself is extremely feisty. So I think she was, as a teenager, she went to Bishop Cotton's herself too. And she was one of the first people in Bangalore, if not the first, to ride a geared scooter slash motorbike. And
Wow.
so when she was in college and she went to Central College and things like that, she would go off on her father's Vespa and zip around from Jayanagar to everywhere else. She took some in the 70s. She got selected to go off for Expo 70 at Japan, and so she's a trendsetter. I think I had an excellent role model in her. So, and my dad and brother. So yeah, that's it.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's actually inspiration within the family to
Yes.
do so many things, and
Yeah.
you
You
know
once I
you'll be able to do better than them because
ah
without
no.
technology they did so much.
Yes.
Without with limited communication, with so
I
many
was
other
just
challenges.
I was just going to tell you that if you speak to uh my family, you'd probably want them in place of me on your show. So
Yeah, probably we will do a 60 plus one day. For 1 month we will do only 60 plus people who are different
yeah,
and trendsetters. We will figure out those people and also do that. It'll be nice. It's a
fabulous
good
idea.
thought. Yeah, it's a wonderful idea. Let me work on that. So coming to after college, what did you do?
Oh, so I started working immediately, meaning that I think I got my results first week of June. By the second week of June, I had started working again. Very fortunate career trajectory. So I started my career with Infosys in their marketing department, corporate marketing department. So I got to do a lot of brand building. I got to do a lot of client relationship management. I got to travel the world, which as a young girl, you're googly eyed about. And I got to see the Americas. I got to see Europe, and generally had the best time in my 20s. And the work was fabulous because as a fresher, you don't anticipate that you get access to CXO level um, management cadre in really really big companies and multinationals around the world. So that was a really fun job. I moved on from Infosys to because I wanted to sort of specialize in corporate communications, and I got an excellent
Americas, I
opportunity
got
in
to
Chennai
Europe and
in
Jet.
Cabin Care. And so I worked there briefly. I worked from Cabin Care. I moved to Henkel, where I worked briefly again in corporate communications. And that was another fantastic experience because that was the time that I lived in Chennai. And to be a young adult, single, and living it up, earning your own salary in the early 2000s in an apartment of your own, it was a really good learning experience. So
And also, I'm sure it was very challenging in terms of the job itself that you were, the roles that
yes.
you were doing itself.
So as a person, I don't think that I can work at something that bores me, right? I mean, I need to be stimulated intellectually in order to be able to feel excited about what I'm going to do. Like, you remember I told you that I used to be excited about my course in college.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I need to be excited about the work that I do every day. There has to be something that sort of gets me out of bed and looking forward to the day. And I mean, yes, there is a lot of other stuff that's happening now, touch wood, but if my professional life forms such a large part of my day, then yes, I will tailor make it so that I do something that I enjoy. It was a great learning experience. It was a All the companies that I've worked in have been, I had fabulous mentors. I had excellent colleagues. My opportunities were endless. I'm really, really grateful for everything that I went through. Really.
Wonderful. So post Chennai, post
So in Chennai is actually where I met my first husband. And I say first, yes, because we're now divorced. I actually moved from Chennai and came back to Bangalore because I discovered that I was pregnant with my son. And we wanted him to grow up in Bangalore. Also, both my husband then and I had better opportunities awaiting us here career wise as well, and my family was here, so we decided to move here to Bangalore, and that's when I moved back in 2008. I took a break for 2 years because I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to spend time with my son. I didn't want to choose, the classic, I don't want to choose between diapers and a corporate board meeting. That was the case. I lucked out because I got the opportunity to do that. And then when my son was 2, I started getting bored because there's only so much that somebody with my mom keeps saying that I have chakra on my feet. No, not instead of feet, I have chakra. So there's only so many months I think that somebody like me can sit at home. So I decided, I was trying to figure out what to do, and that's when I came up with my first entrepreneurial venture, which was a children's play area called Gambola. And around then was actually the time that we met. So Gambola was, I think, one of the first of its kind in Bangalore. So it was a paper hour play. It started off as a paper hour play area, and
This
that
was
was
something
my
near Boring Club, right?
initially, it was near Commercial Street because
Okay.
it was a pure drop off while parents sort of went and finished their work at Commercial Street. And then um, we moved in 2012 to St. Mark's Road. But yeah, it is I had a B2B component, I had a B2C component, I had an educational component where I ran a mother toddler program. So I used to rent out carnival games and equipments and you know uh, bouncy castles and giant wheels and toy trains to malls for their Christmas. It was a really fun job. Every day I got to, I mean, my job was to watch children play.
Yeah.
How can it get better than that, right? I had zero responsibility because all I needed to do was to make sure that they were happy. I had sand everywhere, I had color everywhere, I had paint everywhere, and there was just laughter surrounding me 24/7. It was a fabulous 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years.
And
So,
after that,
oh, so towards the end of my Gambola is I started. I told you that I had this, this portion um, of my business where I rented out play equipment. So
yeah.
what I started doing was instead of only purely renting it out commercially, I started going to government schools, Anganwadi centers that had just started cropping up then. Slums, orphanages, things like that, and setting up little play areas for their kids to have like one day of fun, right? And then we'd organize like a popcorn machine or cotton candy or something like that. So the kids would have 6, 7 hours of fun that they don't normally have access to.
Yeah.
And then I started working on this resource center idea where we set up a resource center for children of of people from the slums, so that they would be looked after following their school day while their parents had the opportunity to work. Um, it was a big, very ambitious project, but I think as I started getting sort of closer to that, um, I realized that my heart lay in doing something for people that they couldn't do something for themselves, right? I mean, that I think is where the interest sort of sparked off. um, I was actually moving Gambola to a bigger place. I had to leave the leased area that I was at that point, and we were actually shifting to another building, which turned out to be litigated, and we got into this huge legal mess and so on. And unfortunately, I had to wind down the business. But I think that's where the interest in the social space kind of started. So then after that, I started something called Feed Your Neighbor, because I didn't have a full time job at the time. And Feed Your Neighbor was a 2015 Dasara project. It was meant to be a one time, 10-day affair where sort of everybody in Bangalore came together to give meals from their homes to either the homeless or to people who went hungry and things like that. It turned out to be such a movement, such an absolute citizen movement, where people from so many countries, said, I'm from Bangalore and I want to be a part of this. At the end of it, instead of only people giving us food from their homes, we actually set up a kitchen in my own house. So it was like a proper wedding catering kitchen. And we started off with some 300, 400 meals. At the end of it, we were churning out some 28,000 plates of food just from my garden. It
Wow.
was, and everything was volunteer driven. Okay, like nothing was paid for. We had people donating rice by like sackfuls, and my living room was stacked floor to ceiling. I have some pictures of that which are fantastic to watch, because there was just about enough room for us to navigate between piles of food. We had volunteers just pouring into my house to help us cook, to help us pack, to help us distribute. People who couldn't participate themselves because of office and things like that would send us their cars and drivers, and each one would go off to a different location. We had pickup points and things set up all across the city where groups of people sort of congregated. And I think that was just phenomenal to watch everyone coming together for a unified cause. It's brilliant to see it unfold, because it's completely unplanned, right? And it once something so big happens, I think it just sort of takes over, and you have to go with the flow, and you can't do anything to alter the course of the river, right? So that was fantastic. At the end of it, in 10 days, I think we managed to feed 1,33,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it set off an avalanche of very fortunate events after that. So one is that I was able to convert Feed Your Neighbor into a full-fledged non-profit. So at the moment, till COVID hit, of course, we moved then from doing cooked food. Another beautiful thing that came out of this is that so many little groups like this sort of popped up, because I think there was that switch that went off in people's heads, right? That saying, I don't have to do a lot to be able to help somebody. I can do something from my own home. So people started to cook, people started to contribute. All these huge apartment blocks, everyone sort of started coming together. Um, and once a week they would do something. People realized that if there was excess food after a party or a dinner or an event, that there were people to sort of direct it. So many little groups like this and volunteer organizations, college children, school children began to do drives like this. And I think that was really beautiful to see. So what we did as Feed Your Neighbor, the organization, was to move then from pivoted from letting cooked food go to somewhere, redirecting cooked food to trying to redirect provisions and grains and grocery stuff, right? So around that time is when France passed a law that made it illegal for supermarkets to dump any food produce into the landfill. And unfortunately, that is the way the system works here in India, which is that if anything expires on a supermarket shelf, they have to dump it down the landfill. Sorry. So I started working with hypermarkets and supermarkets in a very small way, because I was still a one person organization. I refused to work via money and funds, because I wanted the work to speak for itself. So to date, Feed Your Neighbor doesn't have a bank account. Um, and what we used to do was rescue food grains from going waste in hypermarkets and supermarkets and redirect it towards organizations, hospices, orphanages, hospitals for the needy, things like that, old age homes, etc. Once a month, there was a kitchen in HSR layout that had given us, 3 shifts, so one day, and we'd get contributions of vegetables and dals and masala powders and stuff like this, and we'd actually cook food for the homeless, who are still, you know my favorite group to sort of cater to, because if you don't have a home, then you don't have access to food, right? So it's very basic, and for me, food is a very, very, very basic right. It's something that everybody thinks about the entire live long day. So it just breaks my heart to think of people that don't have access to food. um so yeah, and till COVID hit, which was till February 2020, we were moving an average of 15 to 16 tons of rice and grain every month. So, yeah, that is a big
That's
operation.
huge. Yeah. A lot of
Huge.
our friends who are watching and listening to us are showing love with the thumb and the hearts. I wish they comment here and say, "Lovely job. We are with you." What did Each one has done something also. I'm just waiting for them to comment so I can put it up so you can read it also.
I would
Friends, do
love to.
comment while you're watching. It helps us know who's there, and it helps us also share love. Yeah. Continue, continue.
No, no, I mean, so that is it. Unfortunately, of course, the whole, panic of the pandemic sort of put an end to all of this, because then people started panic buying in supermarkets and shelves started getting empty, and then of course the lockdown happened. So unfortunately, uh, our mammoth operation sort of had to come to a grinding halt in 2020 March, but we found other things to do then. So, yeah, and we're slowly resuming, of course. I mean, there are still groups of people that um, from abroad or in different states that want to slowly start replicating little bits of what Feed Your Neighbor does. So, in the last I think now I think we've done Feed Your Neighbor drives in about 8 states in India.
8 states.
Maharashtra, yeah,
Wow.
8 states, yeah. Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Telangana, AP, Kerala, Delhi, NCR. We've done West Bengal, we've done, so that's more than it. Then Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Jammu and Kashmir, because I had a friend who ran something there for about a month before she got married. Yeah, I mean, so
Wonderful. See, some love is coming by now. You can read it.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So the COVID brought a different Mahita.
It's the
You know,
same,
uh,
Mahita.
I,
Mahita
I
hasn't
heard
changed.
about you when you were doing the ISB course.
Yes.
That's when back home my wife also was part of it, and she used to tell me there's this lady who does these things, and I said I think I met her somewhere in that Gambola kind of a thing earlier, and not too sure. But then when the COVID happened and when we were all stuck at home, uh, I also belong to the same category where I can't sit doing nothing. I need to meet people, do something. You need to have some passion that drives you, right? So sitting at home, four walls, it's very difficult. And that was a long period, 3 months. Luckily, one of my friends, one of our common friends, Shrabona messaged and said, my friend is doing this. But I'm sure your network is so good. Why don't you do something? That is how I got into Caremongers. And believe me, about 20 days ago, I went to watch a play. There was a boy who came and said, uh, "Hi Prithvi, how are you? We have never met. We have only coordinated for Caremongers because he was in
Yay!
Nepal and I am in JP Nagar. And he had a requirement this side and I had a requirement that side. We exchanged notes and he went and delivered to someone, I went and delivered to someone.
Can you see how big my smile is? I love hearing stories like this. I
And
love
I'm
it.
like, and we were all masked. That's the best part. We both of us were masked. I said, "How did you even recognize me?" He said, "No, you've done so much for us during that Caremongers activity, so I can never forget." I said, "Wow, amazing. It's
Yay.
wonderful that activity." I want to hear a lot about how you started that. Yeah, the background is there, the background of all the doing for the needy. But this activity of lockdown time,
Huh.
reaching to people, how did you start that?
So, Priti, the first thing is I don't ever consider myself as somebody who does stuff for the needy, right? Um, in that sense, I think that I consider myself a very selfish person because I do what makes me happy. It If this is the vehicle, okay, then so be it. And maybe I'm fortunate that it is, and it results in something that's, that helps make an impact, and for that I'm very grateful. But am I doing it because it's of use to somebody? No, that's just who I am. Like my philosophy is that everyone is created equal, and some people do better than the others only because they have access to better opportunities. That is my base philosophy. And if there is anything that I can do to tailor my day, tailor my life, so that I can change that, scale, and that weighted difference between the haves and the have-nots, sure, I can help. And therefore, why I gave this lengthy sort of intro is because I want to say that whether it was Feed Your Neighbor or Caremongers, it didn't happen because I planned for it to happen. I put up one single post on my personal Facebook wall. Actually, it wasn't even that, right? So we have a school WhatsApp group, as does I think everybody else. Um, and my friends are based in different parts of the world, and I know that they're, so offices had shut, schools had shut in the second week of March, and this friend of mine had parents that lived alone in Malleshwaram, right? And so I said, people are, and the old and the elderly had already been identified as a sort of high risk group for COVID
COVID. Yeah.
19, especially because the Europe stories were horror stories. By then, I think France and Italy were doing really badly, and Spain. So all I did was offer to my friend saying, if you want, I let me go and stock up your parents' larder. Let them not bring in maids and drivers and whatever. Everybody has to stop. So let me help because I can do it. Offices were shut. There was no traffic at all in Bangalore. And this is exactly what I put up on my Facebook wall, right? Saying, I'm free. There's no traffic. And I used to work for myself then. I used to do freelance digital marketing. I wasn't employed full time with anybody at that point. So I could tailor make my day. And that post got shared multiple times, very, very, very multiple times. And I think two things happened out of that. One is that yes, other people came forward and said, um, I'd like help. My parents are also alone, and this wasn't just friends and family. This was people that sort of got to know my post because it got shared and got spread and went viral, etc. But the other better thing that happened was that people started coming saying, I'd like to do the same thing too. I am free too. How can I help? I'm in Pune. How can I help? I'm in Delhi. How can I help? That kind of thing. And so I said, okay, obviously there is a need for this. It started with a Facebook post, so let's make it a Facebook group. And so that's how the group Caremongers India was born. I had just read a BBC article about caremongering and how it shifts from spreading fear to spreading care, especially in times of in panic situations like the pandemic was doing to all of us at that time.
Yeah.
And I thought it was like a perfect name. I thought it was a fantastic sort of encapsulation of what people intended to do, because there was just so much fear. It was, nobody had been faced with that situation. The disease was completely unknown. What could it do? What does it do to your body? I think that even now, with all of the variants that we've had, I think the fact is that there's still so many unknown components to COVID-19. And so it started around the time of that Janta curfew. Janta curfew was 22nd of March, right?
Months.
We
Yeah.
were born on the 17th of March, 2020. That was when Caremongers India was started. I don't know why it took off, but I can make a guess. As a society, I think we're very, very reliant on other people uh, to help us with daily chores, right? Like it's almost an urban standard of living to have somebody do your cooking, to have somebody do your cleaning, to have somebody sort of ferry you around, chauffeur you around the city. Um, and in a way, it's great because it provides employment to so many people. Then, of course, there's the whole entertainment industry. There's the eating out, and there's the malls, and there's the restaurant industry, there's takeaway, there's everything, there's plays, there's theater, there's acting, there's movies, there's the whole ecosystem. And I think the Janata lockdown and then subsequently the mega lockdown that happened took everybody by surprise, by shock, and it swept the rug out from under everyone's feet collectively at
Absolutely.
once, right?
Absolutely.
Nobody was prepared for it. Of course, there was, the economic devastation, the loss of jobs. All of that is unknown. I mean, all of that is known, it's been discussed, and there are people that are far more qualified to talk about that than I am. But what I did notice was that there were people who were old, there were people who had babies, infants, there were people who were physically challenged, that were just suddenly left asunder, right? They had nowhere to turn, they had no one to turn to, and probably the only thing they had access to was a phone. And it again, that's all that the intention was, only to provide help for people who needed it, right? And these are people that really can't step out, even if the government said, order from your kirana store, or you can step out 200 meters to buy provisions, and we'll make sure that your milk supply or your vegetable supply doesn't get affected. We know that that was not true, right? Everything got affected. And the thing is, it hit some people harder than it hit the others. So do we have the ability to help? Yes. And do a whole lot of other people in India also have the ability to help? Yes. So can we coordinate those help efforts onto either a common platform? Can we be a via media to sort of match people who need assistance with people who can give assistance? And I think that's what Caremongers India became at that point, which was just a coordination facility, matching people who needed help with people who could offer help. So, yeah, I will always say that my role was only to play coordinator.
Yeah. You're like a switchboard, no? You plug
Yeah,
in
but
from
I
this side to
genuinely
that
was,
side.
right, because we also had a helpline that used to
Yeah.
run, a
Yeah.
telephone helpline, and that helpline is, by the way, active to date. So it doesn't, thankfully, it doesn't see the volume of messages that it used to. But we still see requests for assistance for, blood, for surgeries, for help for elderly parents. Everything that you see on our Facebook group still is replicated in some form or function um, on our helpline too. So
Yeah. So I'm sure that Caremongers was one of the groups, and I'm sure it spearheaded so many people to come together and across different cities. Well, I had calls from Bombay asking to go to somebody in Banshankari to make sure that they have supplies. Somebody from Calcutta was trying to reach someone and it was routed. So
yeah.
it was amazing to see the national connect that happened and people calling, reaching out to figure out, are they comfortable, is it okay, you know. And then you had some finicky elderly people who wanted particular stuff, only that, and you were also dealing with, telecalling, speaking to them, comforting them, saying that it is okay, don't worry, we will make sure it is there. No, 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 I don't want the purple packet, I want only the blue packet milk. I don't want the orange, I want only the blue packet. And it's
As
it was
I would say that about 95, 96% of India showed me the beauty of the human heart. Okay,
yeah,
because
yeah,
collectively everyone came together. And here's one tiny moment of pride, Prithvi. We were helping internationally. We had requests where for volunteer requests in the UK, in Canada, in Australia, in Spain, in the US, obviously, in Japan, in Thailand, Singapore. Indians are spread across the globe. We
Yeah.
became, and the group sort of spread amongst the Indian population globally, and we were in 101 countries the last I checked, which was not long ago. So and this has stayed since wave one.
That's
But
huge. Yeah.
yeah, it's and the thing is that a lot of the activity didn't happen on the Facebook group, right? Because when you need something and when you're in that panic state, you of emergency, I don't think your first reaction is to sort of uh,
Go to
pick up your
Facebook and
laptop and go to
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
your first reaction, your yeah,
Call
your first
someone.
reflex is
Yeah,
to pick up a phone, right, and
yeah.
figure out. And I think that's where the helpline was so
Work.
crucial,
Yeah.
because people had somebody to call. And as a race, no, Indians are very proud. They don't ask for help easily. They will
That's
not.
DNA
Yeah,
DNA problem.
yes, it's a DNA problem.
Yeah, we
So
all come from the Maharajas and the royalty. Yeah,
exactly. So it's much easier to talk to somebody anonymous and ask for help than to reach out to friends, family, etc., etc., and their cousins and brothers and all that, to say I need milk, for
we
instance, right?
have this. What will they think of us?
Yes, exactly. Log kya kahenge?
Yeah,
That will never go. It's applicable to every single sphere of life. So, like I said, 95% fantastic, glowing hearts, 5% pure and total entitlement, right?
yeah.
We have seen, I mean, the kind of requests that used to come in on the helpline, the posts on the Facebook group that we sort of moderated out. Um, I need pizza. I want balloons for my child's birthday party. Today, my meat man did not have chicken and he gave me fish. I need to have chicken. Um, I don't like carrot. I want to have Loki. Uh, it unbelievable. Like, it was unbelievable. I want to go out because my car engine is going to die, so I need a pass. So the entitlement was also there, and it
Yeah,
was fun for us to see, because it's like the blooper section of the show, right? I mean, these
yeah,
are
yeah,
little things that you laugh about internally, and stories that you can tell like this 2 years later.
yeah,
But that was fun. It was
yeah,
fun
yeah.
to very frustrating, because these are the people that expect things done for them, and you know fail to recognize that the other stuff that's in motion is in motion, because people are volunteering to do it. Like, they're risking their own physical health to go out in public. They're going against, public regulations of lockdown and things like that. And they're arguing with the police at the bandobast because some person they've never met in their life requires medicine or water or whatever. But
See, also
yeah,
this pandemic gave in a two-way response system. One is, I'm scared that if I do something to you, I will contract something. You know, if I come to
yes,
help you, I will catch a disease.
yes,
On the other side, there were a set of people who said, I want to help you, but if I come back home, I might spread it to others. This
yes,
is one disease which probably has no understanding, no way of, figuring out where it comes from, what. Yeah, sanitizers, I think more alcohol has been seen by the hand than the body in the last 2 years. But yes,
yeah.
that is how we've all managed to live. I also know that you landed up in KBC,
No, it wasn't KBC. It
not
was
KBC.
a show called Aaj Ki Raat Hai Zindagi.
आज की
Aaj Ki Raat Hai Zindagi. So it
आज
was
की रात
a
है जिंदगी. Okay, tell us
this
about that.
was that was a show that was produced by BBC, and it was hosted by Amitabh Bachchan and aired on World, Star Plus. And it was in 2015. And the description of the show was that it recognized ordinary citizens who were trying to make a difference in their communities. And 2015 was when the Feed Your Neighbor program had begun and sort of done splendidly well. And I think they thought that I had brought the community together, right? And I would like to believe that that's the recognition that I got. So I was invited to be on the show, and I was interviewed by Amitabh Bachchan, which was just, um, and as a surprise, he brought in Ranveer Singh, who's one of my favorite actors,
Oh,
um, to what do you say, felicitate me perhaps on the show. And so that was a fantastic experience because it was the first time I was on a set, and um, in Bombay. And yeah, I had to speak Hindi for the entire thing, which is not pretty, let me guarantee you that. But yeah, so that was a very nice experience. And
yeah. Just a minute. I'm going to see if I can uh,
oh boy.
bring that up here. No, I'm technologically challenged slightly, but I'll still
Yay.
manage.
Oh no.
Managed.
लेकिन सर जो 11 दिनों में करीबन 1,30,000 गरीब और बेघर लोगों को खाना खिलाना, ये यकीनन साधारण काम नहीं। मैं इनसे पूछना चाहता हूं कि ये बताएं कि ये फीड योर नेबर, ये जो आपका कार्यक्रम है, ये है क्या?
सर दसरा टाइम में एक रात मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही थी।
This is Bangalore Hindi.
क्योंकि मुझे भूख लग रही थी। तो शायद हाफ एन आवर 45 मिनट्स के लिए मैं कंप्लेन कर रही थी कि मुझे नींद नहीं आ रही है, मुझे भूख लग रही है, लेकिन लेजी भी थी फ्रिज से कुछ खाने लेने के लिए। तो कुछ देर कंप्लेन करने के बाद मैंने सोचा कि एटलीस्ट मेरे पास घर है, एक वार्म सा बेड है, फैमिली है मुझे, और इतना सारा रहने के बाद भी मैं इतना कंप्लेन कर रही हूँ क्योंकि बैंगलोर में मिलियंस ऑफ लोग, इतने सारे लोग हैं जो घर नहीं है, खाने नहीं है, हर रात वो खाने के बिना सोते हैं। तो I felt really bad. I felt very ungrateful that I was complaining. तब मैंने डिसाइड कर लिया कि दूसरों के लिए मैंने कुछ करने के लिए जरूरत है।
जी जी, तो क्या किया आपने?
तो मैंने ये फीड योर नेबर प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किया। मैंने सोचा कि हर इंसान के पास उतना ताकत है कि अपने अपने घर से कुछ मदद कर सकते हैं दूसरे लोग के लिए।
जी जी।
और खाना तो हर लोग का बेसिक नीड है, और हर रोज एक हॉट मील खा के सोना तो एक दूसरी तरह की सेटिस्फैक्शन दिलाती है। तो मैंने सोचा कि अगर हर 2000 पीपल अपने घर में 5 लोगों के लिए खाने बना सकते हैं, तो मैं एक एक जगह में ड्रॉप ऑफ पॉइंट बना के वहां से उनसे खाने कलेक्ट करके एक एक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन पॉइंट में दे सकती हूँ। अगले दिन मैंने फेसबुक पे अनाउंस किया, सब लोगों को पता चला, और 2000 जो वॉलंटियर मैंने एक्सपेक्ट कर रही थी, वो नंबर तो 6000 या 7000 हो चुका है।
7,000 वॉलंटियर्स आ गए आपके साथ।
हाँ।
So we'll skip directly to.
If I was, I'd tip it to you, Mahita.
और जब रणवीर सिंह जी आए तो
मेरे साथ भी अक्सर होता है।
So I presume that's your
जनरली
mother.
बड़ा एक्साइटेड रहता हूँ।
Yes, and my son.
पहले तो आपके लिए, आपकी टीम के लिए, जो ये शो दर्शा रहे हैं, सबके लिए आप खुशियां बांटते हैं और इससे बड़ी कोई बात नहीं होती। तो एक बार सबके लिए, शो के लिए, बच्चन साहब के लिए जोरदार तालियां। महिता, आप इतना अच्छा काम करती हैं, हैट्स ऑफ टू यू। मैं भी बहुत लेजी हो जाता हूँ, रात को मुझे भी नींद नहीं आती है सर।
Okay, for all those who want to see this, you can. I've shared the link on the page. You can see it and enjoy it. So it's there on YouTube.
Thank you, Anu.
Yeah. Thank you, Anu. There's so many people who have loved the English. Wonderful.
You know, if I'm famous for anything, let it be for the fact that I made an effort to talk in
Talk in
Hindi
Hindi.
on national television and got
Wonderful.
over my embarrassment.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now you're given a new name to Caremongers.
Yes, now it's called Humankind Global. So the thing is, Caremongers was a term that became sort of synonymous with um, a group that began this in Canada, and what we were doing was more peer-to-peer support, and not really activist work like a lot of the other caremongering work that was happening in the rest of the world. So we wanted it to reflect the more global flavor that the group had sort of become, as well as the fact that all it took was kindness, right? And that people can make a change. There's that famous poster that says, if you can be anything, be kind, right? And that sort of sums up, I think, everything that everyone on Caremongers had done, or everything that we want to do in Humankind Global. It's just about peer-to-peer support. It's about how can you help somebody else, and that, I think, is the basis of what we do. That is the diktat we follow. That is the essence of our philosophy, and yeah, we tried to sort of capture that in our name.
Wonderful. So just before we wind up in another 10 minutes, I'm going to take this moment to show you and everyone who's watching what the finer side is all about.
Yes, please.
Wonderful to see this venue come alive. The sound was great, acoustics were great. Thanks a lot to the finer side.
I mean, what can I say about this place? It's such an inspiration for all artists like me, and I feel like coming and again and performing here.
Great place, great vibe, great people. ಈ ಜಾಗ ಈ ತರ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಸೆಂಟರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿ ಬೆಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಆಶಿಸ್ತೀನಿ.
ಬಹಳ ದಿನಗಳಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆ ಜಾಗದ ಹೆಸರು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿದೆ, ದಿ ಫೈನರ್ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ತುಂಬಾ ಅದ್ಭುತವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ಜಾಗನ ಬಿಲ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
This beautiful auditorium, it's very inspiring to see how it has been designed for the sake of arts.
ಚಿತ್ರ ಬೆಳ್ಳಿ ಕಟ್ಟು ಬಂಗಾರ ಬಣ್ಣದ ರೂಪ ಚಿನ್ನ ಬೆಳ್ಳಿ ಸೇರ್ಕಂಡಾಗೆ ನನ್ಗಂಗೆ
बहता है मन कहीं कहाँ जानती नहीं बहता है मन कहीं यूं ही बरस बरस काली घटा बरसे हम
Hi everyone, it was a lovely music evening and I thoroughly enjoyed and I am looking forward for many such lovely programs. Thanks to TFS and I'm hoping to be coming here again and again.
Well, that was a small
Fabulous.
stint between the after the first opening to the second lockdown. We had a good stint of events, and yeah, we are looking forward to starting back our events from April. And definitely, we will work with you in some way to make sure that you are at the venue
Yes, for
doing.
sure. And
Yeah.
anything that I can do personally to support TFS, I'm happy to help.
Wonderful. So, uh, I know everybody who's watching here, whether they were part of Caremongers or not, they have done something either for a neighbor or a friend or somebody at a distance to reach out and give something. That was during an emergency, that was during a requirement of pandemic. Now, we are going to get out of this pandemic. Life is going to get normal. As you said, you are selfish, I am selfish. All of us get back to that cocoon where entitlement grows into us and we say, why should I do anything to anybody else? This is going to get to become a norm shortly. Before it becomes a norm, can you give us some words, some sentences, some gyan which will say, don't break from the mold? Is there a method where every week I can do something, every day I can do something, or something that I can be part of? This is for all of us who are listening to you.
So, Prithvi, all the big gurus, right, self help gurus, say that it takes 21 days to create a habit, right? My personal hope is that given that we've been doing this for 2 years now, we are so seasoned at it that it's not going to stop. And that this is going to be the new norm where unknowingly, unwittingly, we go out of our way to help somebody else. But that is the optimist in me speaking. You're right. At some point, everybody's going to get bogged down by their day, by their life, by, life has to go on for everybody. And the last 2 years have been tough on everyone, right? And I think the only thing I can say is remember that you're not alone. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, remember that you're not alone. There are other people out there. I'm there. At least personally, I will offer whatever time I can to everyone at all. You're there because you were a pillar of strength for Caremongers, and I know how much you did. Everywhere there are people who are going through the same thing as you. Point number one. Point number two, if you have a roof over your head, if you have family, and this is the same thing that I've been parroting since Feed Your Neighbor, you have something to eat every day, you're better off than 70% of the world, right? And as long as you can keep that priority in mind, and nothing else matters, right? Therefore, given that you're part of the fortunate gather, what can you do? And it doesn't really have to be a lot. I think one thing that everyone has learned is that material possessions aren't really it. It's about time and attention. And as a preschool teacher, I'm sure this is exactly what you tell parents, right? That your children don't need gifts, your children don't need expensive toys, your children need your time and your attention. And that is true of everybody at any age, in any part of the world. Everyone wants attention. So can it be as small as smiling at a stranger when you cross the road? Yes, please don't do it creepily, but I mean, don't stalk somebody and say, "Ee, you have to have a good day." No, but, say good
Right.
morning. Right. Like, there's a security guard at every office. There's somebody now in every location who measures your temperature and spritz his hand sanitizer onto you. What if you could say, "How are you doing? Like, have you had a cup of tea?" Or, "How's your day going? Can I get you a glass?" That's all it takes. Find somebody near you and figure out how you can make their life better. And that's
Wonderful.
all it
Wonderful.
takes.
Thank you so much. That was a beautiful message. Let's sign off on this. And lovely having you. It was such a pleasure. And it was a lovely conversation. I'm sure all of us will remember this and do our bit.
Thank you
At
so much
least,
for having
at
me,
least we can
Prithvi.
say "Kaise ho bhai" to somebody.
Correct. Correct.
Let's do that. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Thank you so much, Prithvi.
Thanks to all the friends who are watching, listening. This is going to be on air for you to watch and share it with others. Thank you.
Thank you.